that playing in State Farm Center in front of our people every night. It gives us a great advantage.
Io and Trent all mentioned the rebounding ability of Minnesota. What do you kind of have to do to neutralize that tomorrow night, maybe particularly that of Jordan Murphy?
Well, you've got to put your gloves on. You got to fight. You know, the one thing that Jordan does, he's relentless. He never accepts a block out. You know, and it's really, really easy to get consumed with him. And then you look at Arturo, the freshman, he's averaging 3.2 offensive rebounds a game. Those are elite numbers. And, you know, they do a great job of getting underneath you and riding you back up the floor. They almost run out of bounds at times to get inside you. And you have to do your job early to block them out. And, you know, then you've got Coffee at 6'8", who plays the point, and it's unnatural to have other teams' point guards go to the glass, and yet he's a good rebounder. And so they throw different things at you. We've got to bring our mindset, though, that it's picking a fight, so to speak, and we have to be very, very diligent, very have a high level of concentration and making sure we hit guys. And we've spent time on that this week, and as we do any week, but it's a big key for their success.
You mentioned, you know, Amir at the point that 6'8" is different, but just what does he do maybe with his size and length that at maybe running the point that, you know, shorter guards just maybe don't do as well?
Well, he's tremendous at getting into his spots. He's figured out how to, you know, for a young man that plays upright in terms of having size, being big. You know, a lot of point guards, you know, snake their way into the paint and get around you with quickness or speed. He's very, very good at getting into his spots, and then he's got the ability to jump over you. And they do a great job of pitching the ball ahead in transition. And then he is electric in the open court. And you know, one or two dribbles from half court, and he's at the rim. So that size is effective for him, and then he shares the ball. He's got vision over the top of smaller guards, and he's been effective doing that.
You mentioned they maybe don't have a true point. You've seen a few true point guards this year. You've had success forcing turnovers. What do you guys have to do to negate the other abilities that he has?
Well, one, we've got to make sure that you know, we're sprinting back. Transition defense is important. We've got to make sure that we're you know, we're concentrating on stopping the ball as early as we can. You know, that slows it down. And then, you know, I think the other thing is if you can get on the glass yourself and bother them, and they've got to take the ball out of the net and play good offense, you know, that slows the team down a great deal. And again, they're a team that you know, rebounding wise is potentially as good as any team in the country.
Brad, is it an extra challenge to scheme against a team like Minnesota when they seem pretty balanced in their offense? If you try to take one thing away, does something else emerge with them?
Yeah, I mean, and that's where Gabe has had such an impact in Clasure, and I'm probably pronouncing his name wrong, but you know, he's turned into a tremendous weapon from the three-point line. McBrier's been a consistent, you know, high 30s guy through his career, and gives you that. But you know, anytime you can score at the rim, you scheme from the rim out. And now those guys making shots, and then Coffee being able to get it to spots at 15 feet and bounce over you. You know, they're a pretty well-rounded package at the offensive end.
And with the 0-5 mark in the Big Ten, does it feel like there's growing pressure just to get that first win? Is that something that you sense the team carrying just to get that first conference win and get that out of the way?
Not at all. You know, I think we want to win them all. I don't think there's any. I don't think there's any more or less pressure. I think we approach every game to try to win it. I think, you know, I told the team today before the game, I said, you know, we lost by 10 well, we'll probably be the number one team in the country now. And really, we're trying to understand the detail. So it's one defensive possession in each half that went bad, and it's one offensive possession in each half. It's a 4-possession game and a 10-point game. And that's how little separation there really is. And yet you've got to be able to accomplish those things. And it's, whether it's a free throw lane blockout, or whether it's a defensive rotation that we don't make that leads to a foul and an and one. You do one of those in each half, and that's 4 possessions on both ends of the court. And getting our guys to truly understand how important that is what we keep striving for. And consistency is becoming better. I mean, we've jumped dramatically defensively in terms of all of our efficiency rating numbers. We're running offense better. And yet, there is that fine line, and it's that one possession each half. A communication error between Kipper and AJ, 2 veterans in transition, gives Charles Matthews a dunk. Well, you eliminate that, and now all of a sudden, you're in a different position. And it's those are the things that when we start doing those things, the outcomes on the scoreboard will be different. And we keep working towards those every day. And that's youth, and that's some of the things that we're trying to overcome.
Brad, what has impressed you most about Iowa over the past 4 games?
Well, I'd be hard challenged to find any player in the country that in every aspect of the game is playing any better. You can look number-wise, but I mean, from starting from ground zero as a freshman and looking at where he's at now, I mean, we were just talking after practice about how much confidence he's playing with at both ends. The game is slowing down for him. And I think that everything becomes rushed, everything becomes new when you first get here, and it's you can look at the missed layups in that stretch. Now he's finishing through contact and taking hits. Every time he shoots it, I think it's going in. But more importantly, he's making the right reads. And he's making the right reads defensively. He's gained so much defensively. I mean, he's playing way beyond his years. He's playing in a very, very mature way. And that's a tribute to him.
Aaron, Trent, and Kipper all had, they all had 3 against Michigan, kind of breaking some long scoring droughts from behind the arc for those 3. How much emphasis have you kind of put on that 3-point shot? How important is that moving forward to kind of maybe get over the hump of winning those close games?
Yeah, there's no doubt we need the ball to go in the basket, and we feel like we're getting pretty good shots. I think that in Trent's case, he got great shots. He was 3 of 5 the other night, and we want Trent to be able to make plays, and then Aaron and Kip, we need those guys to make baskets and make shots. We need them to take good shots, and we need them to take them at the right times in the shot clock. Aaron shot the ball real well this week in practice, and Kipper made a few in the last game, so we hope those mini slumps, if you want to call them that, are behind us, and ball starts going in again.
Alan and Ted kind of struggling to see minutes. What are some of the things you want to see them working on, just so maybe I should change for them?
Yeah, and Alan's had an unbelievable week of practice. Ted was really good today. Alan's becoming very, very comfortable in our schemes and what we're doing. I think that it's fair to say he's got an opportunity to get more minutes. Tev, in all fairness, was gone. He's missed half the season. He's still kind of getting sea legs back and the nervousness and some of that out. It's really hard to do that in Big Ten play. But he continues to work and get better. And it's for those guys, it's consistency and they've both made huge strides defensively, where I wasn't very comfortable with them early. And Alan in particular is a guy that does everything we ask. I mean, his hustle play the other day, diving on the floor, his ability to go rebound, he's made huge strides, and I'm starting to become a really, really big fan of his consistent effort.
What is it maybe about Isles' game where when he's, you know, with the ball in his hands going downhill that he has been such a threat in the last few weeks?
Well, I think there are two things. I think one, he's figured out defensively how teams are playing him. I think when you see a lot of gap teams, we call them gap defense teams, they're always going to be at the elbows and they're always going to be at the blocks, and creating that angle. He's done a much better job. And Io's not the most physical player. He's learned how to get guys into ball screens better. He's learned how to change pace to keep guys off balance that are actually guarding him. He's done a great job of keeping guys on his hip and absorbing contact, and that's not easy to do. And but I think his confidence level of handling it, just as seeing the court, seeing the game slow down, so his natural instincts take over in those cases. But we talk about that unless you really played the game and understand how it has to slow down mentally for you to be really effective. That's probably the biggest key. That's just coming from confidence and experience.
Along the same lines, Kevin, we haven't seen much of Samba for a few games. Is that something that you need to see more of him, or is that a product of Adonis starting to get more comfortable coming back?
Maybe a little of both. Maybe matchups. I think that I go back to the same thing I've said for some time with Samba. It's been it's tougher for him because he wasn't here. He's still playing catch up. He's still understanding there's certain situations I don't feel as comfortable with him in as I do AD, and yet today he was really, really good in practice, and gives me puts a smile on my face when I see him impacting the game with his athleticism and his shot blocking and catching balls at the rim and dunking them, and those are things that in small doses he's doing a great job of.
Coach, you're playing a pretty difficult schedule. Do you feel, kind of especially towards the early part of the season, did that kind of prepare you now and the team mentally and physically for kind of what's to come in the Big Ten?
Well, there's no doubt our schedule's been one of the toughest in school history. It's one of the toughest in the country this year. I think that there's a yes and no to that answer. I think that we've seen just about everything. I think we've seen pros, we've seen, arguably we've seen now the top two teams in the country in Michigan and Gonzaga. We've seen big physical. But I think on the other hand, there's some advantage to staying at home, playing some games that you, especially with a young team, that you gain some confidence. You get to see guys in maybe a less stressful situation, and they gain confidence in that. So there's some give and take with that. I've said it many times. We're going to try to play the best schedule we can every year, and the Big Ten provides that with 20 conference games. But I'm proud of this team because we have played a tough schedule. We got to find that one or two possessions or 3 or 4 possessions, whatever it is, that gets us over the hump, and then it will really pay off for us.
Had a similar start to conference play last year, and then also at Oklahoma State. I mean, obviously 3 different teams. Were there any similarities that you can draw between those 3 seasons?
Yeah, the other teams were really good. You look at the Oklahoma State year, who we played and where we played them. We really had one bad loss, and that was Kansas State at home, and then we made the change. Last year was a blur. So, I think the one thing that it doesn't help starting 4 in a row away from home this year. I don't know. I don't look at it that way. I look at pretty much game to game, year to year. But, you know, the Big Ten's the best conference in the country this year, there's no doubt. It's an old league, and it's getting key performances from, you know, Michigan, the Michigan States, and they're playing great, but there's no easy night, and winning is really hard. And, you know, I hope you ask me that question when we win 9 out of 10 like we did at Oklahoma State, or we get going again, you know, when it's reversed, and that's, but I think I don't think there's any real parallel to it. I think it's coincidental more than anything, and being early and building a program.
Brad, Trent talked a little bit about how Minnesota is like the second fastest team in the conference by Michigan State. How do you combat that? And knowing your styles, you kind of want to speed teams up sometimes and turn them over.
Yeah, but I think that there's ways to do that and be effective. I think playing great offense slows a team down. You look at, if you look at the Minnesota losses, and you look at the statistics behind, you know, why they've lost, and most teams have run really good offense. There's been a certain tempo that they've played with that have kept them, kept points down, kept rebounds down, kept fouls down. You know, your best defense sometimes can be your offense. And, you know, that's something we've talked a lot about. Yes, we have to get opportunities in transition. That's who we are. And you've got to make shots. And you do that, and then you start to put a little pressure on them to have to execute as well. And then, you know, it's hard, much harder to run when we run good offense and they're getting the ball out of the net than maybe casting up threes with 17 on the shot clock and long rebounds, and that's when they really punish you.
Just how do you feel your team's coming along in the half-court offense? Trent mentioned some of the struggles has been not getting the ball to the third side as much, so how do you feel everyone's just coming along with that?
Yeah, I think it's one of the areas we're continuing to have to grow in. You know, ball reversal is key to any offense, and you know, one of the things that really hurt us early in the Michigan game was trying to do too much too early, and you have to move teams. You have to make them move. Every team in the country has a bad defender, and it's usually one of the best offensive players, and that's why he's on the court. And yet you have to move those guys and find out those guys and who they are, and be able to attack them, and movement does that. Movement allows for mistakes. And when we're shooting the ball, you know, with one turn, we're not making them move much. So, and part of the problem is we're shooting the ball, we're shooting it over a contested hand, which is something I'm very frustrated with, because we're not driving closeouts and we're not getting to the foul line. And yeah, I mean, it's something Trent's obviously listening to what I'm saying, because we're trying to emphasize it better and become better at it. We had 2 third sides in the last game, just statistically, which is, last year we were about 13 or 14 times a game where we got it reversed. Those are pretty big, pretty significant numbers. Thank you.